Hey there, it's Jen, and I'm here with another layout for Citrus Twist. I'm the guest designer there this month, and I just wanted to show you today how you can make an easy and fun background with stamps and using a resist technique. So what I'm going to do is use these stamps that came in the kit. They say stuff like magic, she remembered who she was and the game changed, you're straight up magic, beautiful, crushingly so, it's on, making it happen, you are made of stardust, and life-changing. And all of these kind of go with the story I want to tell about this photo, which is an awesome view. And I don't really like hiking, but I need to remember that there's a payoff. So sometimes hard things produce great results. So that's kind of the feel I'm going for on this layout, and I'm going to create a kind of like a photo mat with these stamps. So I'm just going to go ahead and put you on fast forward and get right into it and explain the process as I go.
So I'm going to start out by arranging the text stamps that came in the kit this month on a stamping block, and I'm kind of arranging them in an L shape, and that's going to help me later when I stamp all over my background. But you could use any stamp you want, not just words. You could use shapes and all kinds of different things for a background like this, but I really love the way that text looks. So I'm just using some Versamark ink, which is a sticky ink you use with embossing powder, and some white embossing powder. It's Zing embossing powder from American Crafts, I believe. And I'm just stamping these words all around where I know my photo is going to go in the center. So I'm stamping all around the center. And I'm making it, I don't want the edges of where I stamp to be lined up. Like I want them to kind of have different places that the words end going out from the photo. And so I'm just kind of haphazardly stamping these, but nestling them together a little bit, and you'll be able to see that a little bit more when I show you a closer up view of it. But after I stamped with all of the stamps on one block, I just took a few of the stamps off and stamped in some places that were not quite filled in and that I just felt like needed a little bit more of something there, or there was an empty space. And I'm just doing another stamp now, and you can just do as much or as little as you want to do. And now what I'm going to do, I zoomed in here so you can kind of see that, but I'm going to use my heat tool to emboss. And I love the way, like, embossing is still magic to me even after I've done it so many times, but you can see as I heat it up that it turns white, and this is going to give us a really awesome resist effect on the background, because you could just leave it as white on white. You can see it here, I just showed you a little bit of a close-up. You could leave it just like that. It'd be a really subtle look in the background. But what I'm going to do is use some of my spray mists. I have one from Heidi Swap, one from Shimmers, and one from Studio Calico that I'm just going to spray those inks and smush them down. So I'm spraying them on some packaging and smushing them over the words. And you can see that the words resist the ink, and so they pop out. And you could use any sorts of media for this. You could use watercolors, you can use inks and just spray them with water. Lots of different things you can do with this. And I'm just keep smushing some more on until I have enough showing around where my photo is going to go. And it always looks like a hot mess at first, but once you put your stuff on it, it looks so much better. And Missy Whitten, if you watch her videos, makes this look so easy. And it really is easy, but I don't know why it scares me a little bit, but not enough for me to not do it. So I just sprinkled some of each color around as well, and I'm using my heat gun to dry it up because I'm impatient and I want to get going on this layout. And I was going to back the entire layout on that, you might have seen at the beginning, that Chamel pattern paper that's blue and kind of purple with leaves on it. And I'm changing my mind right now. So that's the paper that I'm mounting my photo on right now. I decided to use it as a photo mat instead of as my background, and I really like the way this ends up looking. And I just cut it off, and it was a happy accident that the stripes on the other side of that paper were blue and green, which matched my layout exactly. So I'm just creating a little bit of a photo mat underneath my photo using that Chamel paper, and then I'm going to pull some vellum from my stash and use a little bit of that as well. I thought about using some white cardstock, but I like the softness of vellum. It still adds the texture, but you can see through it. It's just a fun element. So I'll just add some randomly cut pieces of vellum to my layers, and I just like to do messy layers that it doesn't really matter. I don't want them to be lined up. I just want them to be kind of crazy, and I really like that look. And now I can put my photo on it. Now I'm trying to decide what I want to use for my background, and I love the way that this blue pattern paper looks behind it, but it has those cute florals on the front of it. And so what I'm doing is I'm cutting out the center of that paper so that I can use those flowers on another layout, but still be able to use this paper for my background, which it works really well. I like that it has the arrows on it, or the triangles on it, because it reminds me of mountains, and that's what my photo is of. So I'm just trimming a little bit off of the sides of the background there, and I'm going to adhere that to that paper that I gutted. And there's just enough space on the bottom and sides for me to glue it down, which is perfect. And I like to mount my layouts often when I do mixed media like that, because it helps flatten them out. So I just grabbed my sewing machine and I'm stitching. Sorry if you can see that cord there. My camera was going to die, so I plugged it in while I was videoing, and I pushed the cord to the side, but when I pulled my sewing machine over, it didn't want to, it was in the way. So I just stitched around the edges of the white paper, and I know at the end I want to kind of distress that and pull it up. So I'm just keeping that in mind. I centered my photo, and I'm going to pull it up in a second because it's not exactly centered. And I'm trying to figure out my title now. So I thought it was going to be Hello Adventure, but I decided to make it Hello Awesome. And I'm using these thickers from Schow, from her Glitter Girl collection. And I just like the way that the word awesome kind of dipped down, and it mimics the dip in the valley of the photo that I'm using. So I like that. So I'm just going to kind of place it haphazardly onto my photo and then curve the hello around it. I love these foam words that you can easily manipulate. So at this point, I'm thinking I can do Hello Awesome Adventure and just put the word adventure below the word awesome. But then I decide to create this line of phrases down the left-hand side of my photo. So I'll move that word adventure soon here. I'm looking through the die cuts to see what else I might want to include in those word strips that are on the left-hand side of the page. And I'm also pulling out those little triangle embellishments that look like bows, and you'll see how I'm going to use those here in a second. So I'm cutting them in half and using them as triangles, and I like the way, again, that the triangles mimic the mountains and it mimics the pattern paper that's in the background, and it was a really great way to use these embellishments that I had planned on using a different way on another layout, but it didn't end up working out. So this worked out great. And so I'm just arranging those above and below my photo a little bit to the left, and it kind of fills in the space next to the word hello. And I'm just continuing it down on the bottom. And I'm cutting up one of the die cuts. It had a pink border and that didn't match, so I just cut it up. And I have this little gold tab that I'm going to put at the top. So I know in my mind that I'm going to want to use gold somewhere else on the layout. So I'm thinking about that. There's a little arrow that says take note, and it's gray, and it fits right in between the ascenders of the H and the L in the word hello. And I thought it was a good one to use because I'm going to give myself some advice on this layout. I also am going to use from the die cut package some of the leaves, and I like that because it's naturey. And I'm just using my powder tool there to take the sticky off the back of some of those word stickers that I'm going to use. So right now I have I Can Do This and The Greatest from those Pink Fresh word stickers, but I decided to put adventure on the side instead of The Greatest, and so I'm going to move that. I felt like once I had these going down the side that the word adventure seemed like it was out of place under the word awesome. So now I'm just gluing down those triangles using some Scotch Quick Dry adhesive in a fine line bottle. Those bottles come empty, and then you put whatever glue you want inside of them. And I like it because it has such a fine tip. It's nice for gluing down little tiny things like this. And I'll use it to glue down my journaling strips later too. So I'm using the gold leaves and the green ones, and they just matched this layout perfectly. And now I'm going to adhere all of those little word strips. I thought about popping some of them up, but there's a lot of texture in the title and the leaves are kind of popped up, so I decided that they could just be adhered flat. Although 2 of them are chipboard, or 3 of them, so they have a little bit of a dimension. And so here I'm just gluing in the leaves, and you'll probably see it in the close-up photos, but I make some of them go under the vellum and some go on top of the vellum, and you can kind of see it peeking through, and I really like that. It's just a very subtle detail, but those kind of details really make a layout for me. So I'm liking that. And now I'm going over to my typewriter and I typed up my journaling. You could do this on the computer too. And I'm just cutting it into strips using my little guillotine trimmer. And I'm going to just trim off the edges of the words, and I will put them all below my photo. So I spared you the view of me cutting those out, but now I am gluing them down using, again, my fine line bottle with the Scotch Quick Dry adhesive in it. And I'm just kind of nestling them in with those triangles. So you can see that the top one goes, it's above the yellowy green triangle, and it goes right up next to the other triangle next to it. And I like the way that it fits in there. So I always try to make things fit in like that if I can. I'm thinking there needs to be some gold, another pop of gold, but I can't decide where I want to put it. It's a little heart. And at first I thought at the right-hand side of the journaling, but it felt like it was popping out too much there. It just felt out of place, like it didn't belong there. So I just moved it over by the triangles. I stamped my date up at the top, and now I'm going to use some Heidi Swapp Gold Color Shine to bring just another little bit of gold to the layout, and that is going to pretty much finish it. I'm going to rough up the edges like I mentioned before, and I'm roughing them up extra good because I just really like the texture on it, and I'm kind of pulling and folding some of the parts over, and that is going to complete my layout. I hope that you'll try a technique like this on your next layout. There's some close-up photos coming up, but you can head over to the Citrus Twist blog to see more information, and I will leave a link in the video description below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.